Hello, welcome to the fourth episode of the integration interviews. And my guest today is Paul Renshaw. Hey, hello.
Hello there. How are you
Hey.
today?
And the quick intro, Paul is the Chief Revenue Officer at Clearvision, otherwise known as Chief Conversation Officer, which I have to say, I really like the name. He likes solving problems, technology, financial history, music, and football. He's a fan of Manchester United and is originally from Manchester itself, right?
That's great.
Paul has 5 children and is a DJ as well, playing house and jungle, and has been in the Atlassian ecosystem for over a decade. Wow. He
On time.
helps. Yeah, that's quite a time. He helped grow Clearvision from a small company of just 10 people to a world-known Atlassian Platinum solution partner that operates not only in Europe, but also in the United States. And Clearvision specializes in cloud migration, ITSM, Agile and DevOps adoption, and provides the world's only dedicated Atlassian contractor network called clearhub.tech. Thanks for being with us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
And Paul, maybe just other topic is that how do you feel about Cristiano Ronaldo in Manchester United?
Oh, it's such a difficult one. Personally, because I saw him in his heyday as well, this kind of first generation of Cristiano. I mean, he's a wonderful footballer, but what did he add to the team? He added goals, but we were second when he joined. And we went backwards, didn't we, as a football club? So it's a real conundrum and one which gets discussed a lot on Sky Sports. I would have thought someone of that caliber around players would inspire. It wouldn't have brought the team down. But for some reason, the team culture was affected by it. I mean, culture is important in all companies, as we know. So something wasn't right. So I'm hoping this new generation, this new kind of Dutch-led experience will be different, but it sounds like it's going to be a few years for the journey, which is a shame.
Yeah. I have to say, I really like how Manchester looks in the preseason games. It looks like a progress. It's already there. So
yeah, it looks like it. If we can get Marcus back, play Marcus Rashford, I think that would be a good thing.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
We'll see.
Right. So my another question would be that you're recording the videos yourself. I'm following you on LinkedIn, and I see plenty of videos and interviews that you have. And usually you publish them on LinkedIn and also on the Clearvision blog. Some of them you're recording in a car, just driving by. So maybe you can tell me how was the idea invented and what the videos are about, so the people here could follow you as well.
Definitely, yeah, and I hope they do that. What I've learned and what we've learned as an organization is buyer journeys are different now. They are, the day of the cold call in business terms is really gone. And one of the analogies that I've used to help express this is think about last time you personally bought something. Be it a house, the most expensive purchase you make, right down to a new piece of technology, laptop, AirPods, anything like that. What do? You actually investigate and research yourself. And that's really true of buyers. Particularly senior buyers now who are coming into my generation. I'm into my 40s now. It's that generation that are in these positions of purchasing power and decision making. It's naive to think that if you post lots of long articles on LinkedIn that people are going to read them. So how do you get engagement and build trust? That's the big thing, where you make in real day life, how do you make a decision? You do it off trust. I've bought lots of Apple products just recently, a few purchases. I researched it first, decided which technology I wanted to go for, and then made the purchase. The purchase decision was based on trust because of information I'd received. So Clearvision's view is very similar. We're not trying to push products down your throat. What we're trying to do in the Atlassian community is inform, educate, and show you that we do know about this topic. And hopefully we can share some information that you found useful in your business. And if it helps anyone, perfect. If then in the future you have a decision to make, or you're then looking to take on a service or some technology in the Atlassian space, and you think, do you know what, I think I'm going to try Clearvision because of that, then even better. So that's our approach. In terms of the car idea, it was really just to grab, I'm going to use a funny phrase really, but it's
please do.
It's I'm going to say it. It's a knob grabber. So we're in
Okay.
the funny world, in the world of online, which is in the online world, we aren't competing in a LinkedIn perspective with other businesses. There's the drive for attention now is very hard across everything. If I'm sat there as a man and I pick up my phone, I can go to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, to name just but a few, for any type of either information, entertainment, or engagement. So in the business world, that's what we're competing against. We're competing for attention across all platforms. We're competing for attention of a bear chasing somebody through a woods versus a shark jumping out the sea. When, you know, so if you take all of that into context, how do you create content which is engaging enough that it can grab people's attention for a number of minutes? And not just because it's slightly amusing or quirky, but it is actually informative enough. You go, cool, these guys know what they're talking about. So all of that into context, outside of the slightly grotesque phrase that I used, was what we were thinking. How do we get people's attention and give them something that's worthwhile? And that was the avenue we took. The car idea, the internal name for it, quite hilariously, is the same as the James Corden thing, which is quite famous, which is where he takes various celebrities in cars and does all the singing and dancing. Thank God there's no singing, but
not yet.
Not exactly, not yet. But, our marketing manager has a really lovely Tesla, so we thought, come on, I get a chance to drive a Tesla, which is always fun. Obviously, it's a very modern vehicle, so that's how we started. There's going to be others coming in other vehicles. Funnily enough, we're filming one next week, which I won't tell you about, which will be really, again, an element of humor to it, humanity to it. I like a laugh, I really do. I laugh every day at work, but I'm also really serious and passionate about my job, and also helping customers, and the Atlassian ecosystem have not been here for 10 years for nothing. So we're trying to combine all of those facts together. Clearvision itself has, loads of us have been here for ages. Jake, who stars in a lot of the videos, has had a number of roles. He's our product manager now. He used to run support, and he's been with us 7 years. Other people like Gary Blower, who's our ITSM specialist and ITIL qualified. I think he's 6 years, and this is his second time at Clearvision. And the numbers go on. So what you get with Clearvision is this real commitment to our organization and Atlassian, and with that experience. So that's what we're looking to pass through. I still see, people posting content on LinkedIn that is, here's a link to a 75-page white paper. That isn't the way we can
boring.
And is it a sign of the times? Maybe it is. Maybe we don't spend that amount of time. So how do you condense information down into shorter, engaging information that people go, okay, yeah, that makes sense? And we've had a really nice reaction from it. And our aim for the whole of this year now is just to keep the content coming, informative, exciting topics, resonate with our audience. And we feel by building that trust, using that approach, it's all free. Everything you download is free. You won't start being to some email automation where you're getting spammed every 5 minutes. We feel that's great for the community, and that's the approach we're going to use.
Okay. I needed to ask this because I really like to watch it, since you're covering very serious stuff. It's like it's B2B, big corporations, big companies. You're not working for just small ones, right? So and in a way you do it. It sounds so natural, like it's not just like a talking head about some serious stuff. When I'm watching this, I feel like I'm like almost inside the car, like just enjoying the conversation. So it's rather a conversation than a lecture. So in this case, I have to say you're doing it right.
Yeah, I'm really pleased, because that is the idea. It's not scripted at all.
Okay.
It's literally like one of the videos was, how do you fall back in love with Jira? That was it.
Yeah. I saw it.
Topic, and from that these little nuggets of conversation came out, and that's the sort of conversation I'd have with Jake at the pub, along other things obviously, but from a work perspective, that's the sort of stuff we talk about. And it's real, it's not saying this is the best product ever, buy it. That people aren't stupid. We're appealing to a community where they go, yeah, I felt frustrated and I've always wondered why, or I've experienced something negative, and maybe that's why. It's about being real. I'm so blessed to work with some extraordinary professionals, but particularly the technical team. And being a consultant is about being that honesty in the room. You've got to be challenging, because from a sales perspective, certainly historic, use the car salesman analogy. It's always like, yes, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. We're not in that world anymore. What we want to be is have a conversation with someone that's honest and transparent, where we go, these are the good points, these are the challenges, and people respect that. And I mean, that's the way I've always personally communicated with our customers. But I want to see that come through in the essence of the kind of company as well, because that's where we are. But how to display that publicly was kind of a challenge we were looking to solve. And it feels like we're on the right path. And we're going to see more. It's going to get better. We've got a recording studio at the office where we're going to create more content as well, of all varieties. But I definitely like the car thing, and we're going to go for that a bit more.
Awesome. Yes. So keep doing this.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, and I did it as well in the bio, you're 10 years in the ecosystem. So why Jira, right? Because I'm sure you work with plenty of companies. You saw different pieces of software, like even the amazing ones from Microsoft, ServiceNow. There's plenty of other big and small companies. So why Jira? Why Jira for 10 years? What makes it so special?
It's a good question. So when I came from a HP Cisco background before I came to Clearvision, so very traditional servers, just physical hardware and all that sort of stuff. What I realized being in that space, and I account manage HP and Cisco and help them from a marketing and sales perspective with the company I work for, and I met a lot of the sales guys who worked, sales people that worked in those ecosystems. And first thing I realized, it's so competitive. Just in the UK, there's Cisco partners in the hundreds. There really is. Margins at that time, 10 years ago, when it was far more hardware based, it's a lot more software based now. You're talking about cost plus one and 1% margins and all that sort of stuff. I was like, that doesn't excite me as a role I wanted to go into. And I really thought about, where did I want to go next? I didn't choose the Atlassian ecosystem. What I chose was my CEO. Just over 10 years, 2 months ago. And I met Jerry Toombs, who owns Clearvision to this day. And the only thing I knew when I worked for him was, I really trust this man. And I'd only met him for a few hours, and that was it. That was how I made my decision. It was a gut decision, a heart decision. I thought, I want to work for this guy. And that's what I did. Started as a salesperson. And what at the time, over 10 years ago, Clearvision had a slightly broader portfolio. So we were Atlassian's first enterprise partner in the UK at the time. But obviously 10 years ago, Atlassian were very small. And we sold solutions around Git, which obviously we know things like Bitbucket and GitHub and GitLab are solutions around now. But we sold Git training and things like that. So it's still very much in the development world. SVN type offerings again, which again, still about, but you see less of it now. And a number of products that very much lived in the development world. And when I was sat there, I remember in my training going through all this technology, and I was like, this is complicated. This is a world that servers and backup systems, that's simple compared to this stuff. Learning about agile and all those sorts of topics. As I kind of filtered through these various bits of information, we came to the Atlassian side of things. And Jira was there, it was way before. Jira Cloud did exist, but it was very, very in its infancy, and nobody used it particularly. So it's all about Jira Server. And I thought, okay, this makes sense to me. It's a ticketing system, software development teams use it. I get it. And I picked up the phone, and honestly, I'm talking in the first few days, and I half joke that in my autobiography of my life on film, it'll be the scene out of Wolf of Wall Street where he picks up the phone. That in my deluded mind, that's how it will look. But in real life, I picked up the phone to one of my old customers who was a telecoms company, a large organization. I was like, do you use Jira? And they're like, yeah, we use Jira. I was like, do you want to buy it from me? And they're like, yeah, we'll buy it from you. And I was like, bloody hell. Okay. And then I realized through those first few years, it's everywhere. But no, it wasn't anything anyone had particularly heard of. So that was my gateway. And then I was like, it blew my mind, success, picking the phone up, genuinely offering value to these customers. And then the first thing I realized, which is an analogy I've used before, is to reference the Cisco HP thing, hundreds of Cisco partners all ringing you up, going, do you want to buy a server from me? I'll do you minus 1.1% discount, all that world. Everybody I spoke to when I rang up about Jira was genuinely pleased to hear from me because of Atlassian's model. Atlassian's, but particularly then, no salespeople, buy it on the website, all hands off, ground up, all the stories we know about Jira's growth. Whereas when I was a human, going, I can help you just understand a bit more, come to me with problems, and I can do your quotations and give you a good service as well as do wraparound servicing. It was just a joy to sell. And then as you learn more about it, you learn about the ethos of Atlassian, even the story of Scott and Mike, Australians, who went on to just these amazing heights, which is in itself is a documentary, I imagine, one day. And I was just blown away by it. And then, so that was 2012. And then in 2013, I went to my first Atlassian Summit, which was in San Francisco. So I get a chance to travel. I'm in a room with partners. There must have been at most 100 and odd, and some of the people, the one person I do remember specifically is Martin from Siebert Media, who are a German partner. Martin's a great
Siebert
guy.
Great
guy. And he was obviously a younger man at the time and still a business owner. I remember him putting his hand up, giving real feedback to these leaders of Atlassian, and just the essence of the room. I was like, I love this. Another thing I remember is Jose Morales, who's left Atlassian now, but he was a leader. And I remember him arriving on an electric scooter. This is 9 years ago. I mean, they're everywhere now. And I was like, this feels like the future to me. I'm near to Silicon Valley. And for me, living in the UK, particularly in Bournemouth, it's reasonably hotbed for IT, but I'm not in Silicon Valley. That's the truth. And I was like, this is my gateway to this world, which I genuinely love. And I felt I was a part of. So that was sort of what got me into why Jira. And then as my role progressed and we grew and, we went through these various changes, I saw this tool develop from being a bottoms up piece of software developers use to become the strategic tool today. One of my favorite stories to specifically bring that home is huge enterprise in London, massive, financial services company. I can't say anymore. I remember us speaking to them and they go, we don't use Atlassian tools here. Don't use it. We're IBM Rational, all those type of technologies. And we were going, you do? Because here is a list that says there are thousands and thousands of people using this technology in your business. And that's that bottom up in its complete essence. And again, that idea of going in London, this is in Canary Wharf, the skyscrapers, the money, everything you see. And we were coming up there going, no, this is already strategic. And that, developed a long-term relationship. And now all of the banks, particularly all the financial services companies, this is super embedded in their organizations and it's strategic and they're on enterprise level agreements. And of course they see why Jira. So all of that leads up to kind of today why Jira is so important. And now it is all about that SaaS platform, isn't it? It really is. It's, yes, there's always going to be a place for data center, but it's Pareto's law. It's 80-20, 90-10, if that. So the SaaS platform, you're getting the power of, to be honest, there's no other tool platform like it. You're getting obviously the dedicated software tooling in terms of its legacy, but now you're getting service management, you're getting, the facilities that you get through which is the JSM add-on. Business users can now use it because Atlassian knew by simplifying the business user experience, they get more adoption. Obviously, it's all one platform, one source of truth. We love that phrase. Transparency of the data and the ability to work on things collaboratively. Management now, especially with the newer reporting tools that are coming out, whether that's you go all the way to Jira Align and the agile at scale type stuff, or you just use some of these fantastic reporting tools available by the marketplace. It's all in one place, which means it's easier to manage and it's easier for users. And then you're not having to rely on a selection of tools. This idea of best of breed versus one platform, we go through IT, this kind of swing, don't we? lots and lots of individual tools, right back to a platform. We're definitely moving back to the platform status, I think, in terms of the swing of where the industry's going. But what's great for these platforms, really compared to the competitors, and I'm thinking of a ServiceNow platform, things like that, is you can just take bits of these individually and build up over time. So you're not instantly going to $1 million level platform. You can go, no, I'm just going to solve my business users challenge, or I'm just going to dedicate on the ITSM service management thing, or I'm just going to live in my development side of things. And that's what's really great about the way Atlassian have positioned their company now. You know, they have got this beautiful head start because they know, if you look at the Fortune 500, I think the stats are like 80 to 90% use Jira software. What does that allow them to do, or allow us to do? You've already got all this functionality at your fingertips at the click of an upgrade. So you combine all of that. And for me, the Atlassian ecosystem, this kind of next runway is just as exciting as the one we've just had. You know, this kind of journey from small company, Atlassian are 20 years old. We're now mission critical. We are, use the phrase a lot, darling of San Francisco, darling of Silicon Valley. They make money. Quite a rarity in Silicon Valley, bizarrely. Great revenues. Their share price has done really well. Obviously, we've had a NASDAQ wobble. Really inspiring leaders at Atlassian, and just in terms of Mike and Scott to begin with. I love the story about, if anyone who's watching this, if they Google Mike Cannon-Brookes and Elon Musk, have a look at that conversation. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? This is a guy I've met. I've actually got a picture with him. And
I saw it with a white robe.
Yeah. That was that 2013 when we won our first prize. So that's why I love the ecosystem. It's like the leaders of these guys, Mike and Scott, are my age, early 40s, and it's just and they haven't retired to a beach somewhere. They're genuinely passionate about what more Atlassian can achieve, and I love that. They are modern. The way they treat their employees, which filters down into the community, the way Clearvision, we've taken that on massively in terms of, employees and happiness and fulfillment come first, because out of that comes great work. And then now they're biting at the heels of ServiceNow in the service management world. They've got a real dominant position in software. This business team work platform idea is just great, isn't it? You've got everything from Monday to Asana, to obviously Jira lives in there. That business teams are changing the way they work. My most recent video, which a little clip came out recently, is all I want to do is stop people using email and Excel. I mean that passionately. Stop running your bloody teams just using email and Excel, because there's so many simple ways to do it. So I think there's loads of reasons to either come into the ecosystem. There's loads of reasons to stay, and there's just so many reasons to make this transition to SaaS.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you fall into that small category, which is small, normally regulatory required to stay behind the firewall, come to SaaS, get the power of it, because that's where all the investment's going. It's where all the innovation's coming from.
Yeah, so for us, it's maybe 70 to 30 in favor of cloud, obviously, but still plenty of companies have the Jiras behind the firewall, like financial companies, big corporations, mostly European ones. They still like to work behind the firewall, right? And that's
fine. Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah, it's got a place, and it's we all know those organizations, but we know in sort of generationally, as this kind of the 2020s takes form, the idea of cloud computing, which we've heard about for a long time, will be the norm.
Yeah.
It will seem pretty crazy to run servers, or even if you're on AWS and do all that stuff, because just get someone else to do it. Concentrate running your business, adding value to what you do.
Yep. And my first experience with Atlassian Summit was in San Jose, around 6 years ago.
Okay.
And I had the same experience. You had the vendors sitting on the booth themselves. Now they are the CEOs of companies that have 60, 100 people. But then I remember, for example, Roberto pouring off wines after hours to the people himself. It was an amazing experience to be there. And also what I learned is that why people choose Atlassian and choose Jira is also because of the marketplace, the quality of the apps in the marketplace and the ease of use, and that you can actually customize your Jira in almost in every way to fit in particular cases is totally amazing. Of course, like plenty of other tools, they have the marketplaces themselves, but they usually have the free apps. Those free apps doesn't have this quite good quality. The support is not really there, so it's not really the same ecosystem, even though you have the marketplace, right? So it's something. The culture of apps and using the apps in the Atlassian ecosystem is somehow unique for in the industry.
So. Yeah, you're so right, and like you say, I think what it brings, it's very inspiring. I think it's very inspiring when you go away and you meet these people. You know, I've met people who started really small organizations, like say 2 or 3 people who've built up their own businesses locally, you know, employing local people in every single country you can imagine, all over the world, who've grown these real businesses and had great personal success. You know, I know a number of people who've built businesses up who've then sold them to Atlassian, you know, or to the app fires of this world, really dominant, you know, in the marketplace. And that, from a personal perspective, is inspiring, but from a business perspective, you know, if people have got businesses that make money, it means they reinvest, which means the love's there, which means they keep going, which means there's more quality and more support for customers. And then, like you say, they got that marketplace so right, because you see other ecosystems trying to do this. And I don't think any of them are as successful in terms of variety, even the revenue generated, and therefore the quality, as the marketplace in the Atlassian ecosystem did. I mean, some of the numbers are astonishing in terms of usage and all that.
It's just 10 years old now, right? Or it's now 10 years old, which is amazing. And when I saw the numbers, I don't remember them particularly now, but I was amazed how big part of revenue is actually coming from this source. So yeah, like happy to see it grow. But I liked it better when it was a place of a lot of small vendors and founders themselves involved in everywhere. Than now, as I see, it's like big companies with plenty of people in it, and I don't think that. Actually, I liked it better when it was like a community of small creators.
I know what you mean, and that's kind of what this feels like. This next sort of part of the story is about, you know, that one of the analogies I gave to my team actually when I came back from this year's summit in Vegas was the level and standard of new people entering the ecosystem is really high. And the examples I gave, and I'm not going to name any names, but across some of the app vendors and the employees at Atlassian and the other people I met there, they're coming from other worlds. So they're coming from the Salesforce worlds, the Googles, the eBays. You know, you're talking like serious SaaS experienced people. And what I mean is the quality of them coming up. So what that means is they'll demand more from their team. They'll give better experiences to customers, better products. And we move away from the sort of slight, you know, element of the cottage industry style where we all know each other and it's all nice. And I like that, you know, I'm ready. I feel ready for that experience. But I think what the marketplace also gives is an opportunity for new starters, you know, startups. It does. If you've got a great idea, it's a really neutral platform and you solve problems, you'll get noticed. You know, one of the guys who used to work for me, Chris Cook, who runs Old Street Solutions.
Yeah,
you know,
I know Chris. Yeah,
great. You know, he's certainly as a man, he's a great guy, but he has built that company up with his partners from nothing because they solved the problem. You know, particularly the reporting style stuff, which has always been an issue in Jira and Confluence. And that is over a couple of years, you know, and I know there's a Jacek there who I know used to work for me, and they're great guys, but they said, you know what, we're going to try on our own. And what success they've had. And that should inspire people who are interested in the ecosystem but want to work for themselves, or show there's plenty of roles in the ecosystem if you want to get in with a small company and grow with them. Likewise, from a customer perspective, customers can say, do you know what, I want to know that the organization I'm buying my app or add-on from does have, you know, a huge name behind it, and that there's that, you know, that's there as well. So customers get a choice. You know, they can say, do you know what, I just need to solve a problem, I'm comfortable with this, but actually I'm in a really restrictive industry, I can only have, you know, real key apps. I think AppFire is a good choice because of their security approach and things like that. So I think it gives a little bit of variety, because we need innovation, and innovation always comes from small startups. Yeah.
In our case, as Getint IO, we also, like my founder and I, we were working for another vendor, and at one point in time we decided to do it ourselves, even though we were like third or fourth vendor in the marketplace. So it was just an experiment, and we others were bigger and more famous and started when Atlassian started. So we didn't know what to expect. And now, like, we have 1,000 customers, and people from those older tools are migrating to us. And, we have case studies of like Skoda, Daimler, and other, like, saying that this is the tool for integration and migrations because it's simply better. And it was possible because of the marketplace. Like, the two guys could start a company even though the biggest players were there, and we got a chance, right, to be exposed to the big companies. It wouldn't be possible for us to reach them without the marketplace, right?
No,
so that's the magic of it.
It is the customers you can interact with. That's like that analogy I was giving, where I was like, oh my God, look at all these big companies, this is inspiring. That aligns quite nicely with this idea of platforms, doesn't it? It's like the marketplace platforms, because you can have a stand or a shop on the imaginary high street. I mean, that's what Amazon did to retail, didn't it? It didn't really sell books. It created a platform where anybody on their own can start a business and get noticed. And that's what the Atlassian marketplace, I thought, has done, I think, and you're a great testament to that.
Yeah. Totally. Like, for us, it was a big success story. Within like 2 years, we managed to be in a place where we are now, and it is like amazing. But we know that Jira is awesome. We agreed to that. But so why do you feel people like integrate Jira with other tools, are not just staying in Jira? We have like Monday, Asana, ServiceNow, Microsoft Azure DevOps, which is a huge player as well. So why do people integrate Jira? And I'm sure that as a partner, you have plenty of cases yourself with your customers.
Yeah.
What are the use cases?
Yeah, very much so. I think why they do, there's certainly a number of the apps or products you mentioned there, there's an element of being already embedded within organizations. And that's, you know, the Azure DevOps, the ServiceNow type products. And that's where the top down versus bottom up meet. You know, there's kind of a half joke, half real ServiceNow sold on the golf course. You know, it's very much an executive decision to bring in these, and then, you know, these more expensive base solutions with higher costs to enable and all that stuff that organizations that won't just throw out on a whim. They won't. So it is about bringing the two tools together. So there's very much an embedded aspect of it. We also know, and I'm going to use ServiceNow again because I do really respect the product and appreciate why it's there. You know, it's very sticky. So it means it's actually quite hard to displace. And therefore, in my world, I'm not about displacement. I'm about working alongside it. If that fits if you're using that product in a certain way to meet your needs, then that's fine. You know, let's see where we sit alongside it and complement it. And they're often really important to processes that maybe sit outside of where we traditionally live within the Atlassian ecosystem, and again, respectful of that, you know. So I think that's one of the reasons why integration's happy a lot. And the beauty of Jira is it does sit happily alongside those products, you know, because of integration tools, and I know that you do a few of that nature. It is about that lovely marriage beside it. And I think what you find when you do these integrations is teams will naturally kind of move towards the one they feel more comfortable with, you know, because we're talking generally, if we're talking ServiceNow, Azure DevOps type ecosystems, larger organizations, you know, generally. Therefore, they are embedded, but key business processes live on them. So let's find a way where maybe the Jiras of this world offer a slightly better solution and have some of those teams on it, but let's live side by side. Therefore, the integration's key. There is, like I said at the very beginning, there's an element of political aspects to the decisions of these larger tools. There just is. And then maybe with the, you mentioned the Mondays and Asanas of this world, I think that's more to do with, we certainly knew through COVID, there was this hockey stick moment where all business teams said, right, we need something. So they did. They went Monday, they went Asana. They might not have necessarily gone Jira at that point, actually. I think we saw a lot of Monday in Asana particularly. And now people have got used to working in a hybrid way, be it remote, on site, that type of model. The integrations have become more important because the businesses, we've all been given a chance to step back. And now we're back into normality, as we call it, generally. We're going, okay, we have got a bit of a distributed softwares that all the teams are using. Let's at least make sure they talk to each other whilst we maybe go, do you know what, we probably don't need that one now. Let's maybe bring it here, or maybe we move out of Jira, which again, it happens. We're not going to be naive to that. So that's why I think integrations are key. We also know from an Azure DevOps perspective, Microsoft are very dominant. If you're a heavy Microsoft house, you get all this stuff included, which is the beauty of the Microsoft model, which is why they've been very successful over these decades. So, it's very hard to compete with free. When you're talking to a decision maker says, look, nothing is going to come out of my budget if I go down this route. Yes, the business pays for it somewhere, but to that decision maker and that sign off line up, that again, it is difficult to compete with. So therefore integrations become really important.
Okay, yeah, I totally agree. And to add something to that is that you mentioned COVID, and I also see that we do plenty of integrations with Azure DevOps and ServiceNow. But when it comes to like a smaller tools that seems easier to use, like Asana on Monday, we usually do migrations. And we started with integrations. We had to do migrations because customers asked us for it. And we see that people when they learned Agile and they learned how to cooperate remotely in Asana or in Monday, they switch to Jira at some point. So we do plenty of migrations from Monday or from Asana to Jira, which is like, I wasn't expecting this at first. And now I see that this is the trend, and the integrations between bigger platforms like ServiceNow, Azure DevOps, or even Zendesk.
So that's a really good way of describing it, because I think what these tools did, and they first of all did a great way of explaining how to do work in it's not even agile, it's just in a sort of a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Organized.
In an organized way that isn't a big list on an email. This idea of tickets that move through some kind of workflow. Kanban is the word I was looking for.
Okay.
Just something that says, okay, I've got something to do, I'm doing it, and I've done it. Even that simplicity. And they did a great job of simplifying that way of working, which we should all be thankful for. Certainly from Monday.com, I saw it everywhere from a marketing perspective, which again, hats off to them. But I think you're right. I think now we've kind of certainly 2022, teams have gone, this is great, but is there something a little bit more? I'm not saying that those products can't do that, but then suddenly they're going, oh, you already use Jira in the business. And suddenly, that makes sense, because we only need to maybe get a few more licenses, train them on it, and suddenly they're empowered. And I agree, we're seeing that migration rather than particularly an integration with say, a Monday or whatever.
Yeah, and let's not forget about Trello, who I also think that Trello did a lot of good. It was free and very easy to use, so plenty of people use it just for their own personal use. And because of using this, they learned how the Kanban and the process worked. So it was easier for them to enter the big world when they were working in a company, right? So I think that the small Trello was also have the significant impact on how we work today.
Yeah, because one of my commercial manager, actually, he planned his wedding on Trello, as he likes to tell people, which is, and then we joked at home, we have all our jobs to do on a Trello board and you're right, it introduced people into these ways of working, which sometimes when you sit outside of the more techie development world can be like, oh, so it sounds a bit complicated. It's just not, it's like, it just isn't. It's like, here's a thing to do and just pass it through. So that simplification really helps all of us, actually. So I'm pleased about that.
Yeah. So I'm also happy to see. So let's say we know that we want to use some application, and so it means that we have to work with a vendor, right? And as a partner yourself, I'm sure you sold hundreds or thousands of licenses in your 10 years career to plenty of different companies. So you know what actually matters for a company, or what should matter for a company who is choosing the vendor to work with, right? It's usually not just about the price. So if it's not just about the price, what is it about? What the people should look for when choosing the company to work with?
I think there's a number of things that spring to mind. So reputation is obviously really important. You know, what does the world say about this particular tool or app or integration tool that you're saying? You know, that aligns with what I was saying right at the beginning about how we buy. You know, we do research before we do. Cloud security is obviously a big thing now, particularly when most platforms are in a SaaS. So, you know, research that. If we're going to be really specific to the Atlassian ecosystem and marketplace, number of downloads is a great way of understanding if that particular app or marketplace add-on has been used before. Customer references and feedback, of course. And then, you know, trial it. How easy is it to use? What's the setup? What are the features? Of course, what's the cost? And all of those kind of ideas, they apply across all software, don't they? You know, whether that's you're buying a piece of software to play with at home or whether you're buying something for your organization to run things on. So they should be all the areas that you look at.
Okay, like I found a number for downloads a little bit of misleading because it favors the old ones, the people, and not. It's really hard to compare. So I say it should be a number of downloads in a given point of time, if possible. So let's say in a given year, and then you will see the percentage of how fast it grows, and maybe it will be a better option to see. And how about support? How about customizations and like the human approach of the vendor itself? Do you find it helpful, or how do you see these options or the versions of deployment, SaaS, on-premise, and other stuff?
We try and think. I think for a customer, you know, again, they make a lot of the buying decision on their own, which is absolutely the way we all buy. But I think that final 20% journey, then it becomes about the trust thing, doesn't it? Do you like the organization that you're talking to? Do they meet with you in a similar do they have a similar values to you in terms of the way you go about your business? You know, and that's something which we worked hard on at Clearvision, and all our customers, we try and match the values as well. You know, so I get on with the people I'm speaking to, that we respect each other. We've got this kind of shared passion together and can have challenging conversations together. So I think for customers, it's about, you know, okay, I think I trust these people. They seem to know what they're going on about. They've got a good reputation. And then in terms of how they make the choice between the SaaS versus behind the firewall, the direction of travel is SaaS. If there has to be a really good reason to go behind the firewall now, if you're making a decision, and like that's not like you said, it's driven by industry, regulatory requirements, and that sort of thing. So I would think the final 20% is you definitely take some advice from some humans on that final part, because what we know in this world of technology is there's all these great people, really clever, who work for these organizations who can do this. What we find from a Clearvision perspective is that analogy of where, particularly for Jira, often it's your brightest who end up owning or managing the tool because they have the capability to do it. It doesn't mean they're the best person to do it, because actually the business value they can offer for the business shouldn't be on upgrading, installing, configuring, supporting, all of those words. So think about that in your mind. Think about, okay, if I'm going to own the project, great. Do I want to own the solution when it's delivered? Probably not. You know, that's where we have this product called Total Support. Slight pitch, but I think it's relevant. What we noticed is we went out to our customers, and the word support, if you work in technology, instantly in your mind, you think of someone behind a desk answering tickets. Something's broken, fix it. Doesn't actually, but when we spoke to customers, doesn't actually mean that. What it means is help. I want help and assistance when I need it. And help and assistance doesn't always come in the form of, I need to raise a ticket because something's broken. Help and assistance comes in, I need you to mentor me on this topic for half a day. I need you to come in and train my team on this new set of features that have just been released on the cloud. I need you to come into a strategy session for half a day and be the person in the room is going to go, hang on, guys, have you thought about X? And I want you to do my administration of my tooling. So we produced a service which we call Total Support for that very reason, because when you're making these decisions about what technology to choose, you go through looking at reputation, all that good stuff, you find a company to work with. Sometimes that person is stuck owning the platform, be it Jira, be it whatever, actually, Monday, etc. Don't be that person, because actually you were employed not to be the owner of the platform. You were employed to have business value, effectively create revenue and value for the business. Let an expert look after that, not necessarily Clearvision, but yourselves, whoever. Those all come into that decision-making process. Think not only about delivering the project, what happens afterwards? How are you going to support that environment and that new way of working moving forward for the next year, 18 months, whatever? So we've tried to basically not only deliver value at that first stage before deployment, if you like, but how is the value delivered afterwards in the most efficient way? So yeah, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah. So it's the same for us. I feel you, and very much so. It very much changed for us when we started our own business, and then we had to learn how to sell. It was something different when you do it yourself, and then we learned that what my mentor once said, it's like it's not B2B, it's a human business. In the end, you're dealing with humans. So what worked for us is that we usually work with Atlassian admins or consultants, and they work for someone else within the company, or they have a client. So we learned that what matters is this relation, the thing that we value them as people, as well as professionals, as friends. So we have their back. If anything happens, if some requirement changes, it's not that product is as is, we have your back. I can call and ask you how you feel about the trial. How is everything going? You can, the customers can feel that they have the human on the other end. It's not just some, like you mentioned, the support ticket and plenty of levels, blockers and stuff. It's human to human, and this relation sells, right? This is what matters.
Yeah, I agree. That's the trust thing, isn't it? Basically,
the trust. Yes, exactly.
And I think that's just so important. And even because what used to happen, if you throw it back to the pre-internet age, obviously things were more localized. People were flying across the Atlantic and all that sort of stuff. But the reason they were doing that was the human to human trust part. We're lucky now that we can build these relationships in this manner. It means it's quicker, it's more efficient, we can get more done, which increases productivity. But at the end of the day, it's two humans or numbers of humans working together to solve a problem. But honestly, it's like stuff happens. It's not as simple as pressing a button. As we know, migrations are challenging, for example. But talk to a company that have done it before who say, look, these are the pitfalls, but this is the way you deal with them. Not that idea, like say the car salesman analogy. It's like, yes, sir, it'll do all of those magic things, and then you get let down. It's really clear very early on.
Yeah, and we also learned to communicate with a customer in a way that they are used to communicating. So, for example, for the key customers, we had to introduce Slack communication, because this is what they do daily. They communicate daily within the organizations on Slack. So why make it different for company that you work on a daily basis? Okay, so let me ask one more question. Maybe you can share some anecdotes, some nice, funny or complicated story that you had related to integrations or migrations.
Right, so particularly migrations. So Clearvision, we've had our cloud migration certification for a few years now. It's been a huge part of our business, particularly in Europe. There was a recent internal Atlassian sort of competition on most migrations, and we were way ahead. What that means is over those couple of years, we have learned so many lessons, which is one of the great things about now doing migrations to Atlassian cloud is we've got the war wounds, where it's taken longer. There's one of the things we learned really on, which is now part of our process for everybody before any type of migration, particularly a SaaS migration to Atlassian cloud, is risk assessments. It's the first thing we do. And a risk assessment is about going, okay, customer, here is your environment. Here is our review of where the risks are on this project. And this is what I mean about the honesty and upfront. It's what integrations do you have to other business systems? What apps are you using? What's the risk of moving those apps? Can you move the data? that's the first thing we did in terms of our process that we have today. We also then have what we call a live go live. So we have the test migration, where we do the test migration, and obviously you learn in every migration when you do a test migration, and we speak with the customers, go, right, are we going to go for live, or do we need to go through another round of work? So we've embedded this kind of process into our migrations, which all customers benefit from. The other thing is that migrations can be as simple as days, days and weeks, through to 18 months. So the easy ones are 50 users, you're just using Jira Server, you've got a few apps, you're not particularly integrated to other business systems. A move to the cloud is, first of all, really logical and actually a reasonably easy thing to do. You either do it yourself, or due normally to time pressures and having important business things to do, that's where a partner can really help, any partner. And that's what I would definitely recommend. Now, the really large complex ones, and we've done a number over the 10,000 mark. One of them, which was, they were on DC, they had server, they had, I think, probably 10 different instances all over the globe. And we're going to a single it was actually a cloud, the one single platform on Atlassian, so Jira and Confluence. Now that took a whole different approach. First of all, the business is running whilst you're doing it, so you can't necessarily risk assess something which you may end up migrating 6 months later. It took 18 months. It's also not something you can dip in and out of. You have to be embedded within the team at the organization. So the big lessons we learned there were, and this is what we did, we used this ClearHub service we talked about. So we took full-time independent contractors who were suitability assessed by Clearvision to say they have the stamp of authority from our team to work full-time on the project. We then used our solution architects as kind of the overseeing people. So they were directly related to the project, and the customer themselves knew they needed to invest people from their side, which made this so much better. So we were embedded in a team. We had a project leader, we had a project manager their side, we had a really capable senior technical leader from the customer's side who was, passionately knew this was the right thing to do. But he was, this is 18 months. He had to go for the business case for a year. So 2.5 years to deliver on this, and stuck through it for the whole way, weekend work, you name it. And then what we did through each process is the risk assessment, test migration, then migration. We learned from the customer by starting on the smaller instances, and then came the big boys, the thousands of users, multiple weekend migrations. I'm really pleased to say that that's just coming to an end. And then, we've taken on another one in the last year, which was a very large financial institution, well over 10,000 users again. And the idea is it's really important for the customer they have to be as embedded as we are. So you just go, just move us. You can't use that attitude, because it doesn't work. You need people who live in the business, who are on that side of the fence as much as we're full-time using that ClearHub approach. They just need to be there as embedded as we are. So when we're embedded as a team of people, 3, 4, 5 people, that's where success comes.
Okay, so thank you.
It's advice, real world advice. And these things are hard. But the beauty of being a few years in now, I got one of our solution architects to talk to a really big airline recently, and they asked that question. And hearing him answer honestly was just brilliant. They said, what would you do differently? Which is a great question, and his answer was, what we would do is we'd pick off each of the migrations individually and risk assess as we go, because things change in the customer's business over time as well. So something which you get to 6 months later will be different. So I thought that was really interesting, a great way for customers to think about this journey to the cloud. Another way from a personal perspective is think about, you've heard the phrase, build it and they shall come. It's been used in art, particularly Hacienda and all that sort of stuff. Think about the new world that you want to create for your various teams, particularly global teams. Build that environment, and then start to bring across the teams or the projects where the appetite is high, where they're going, yeah, we want to be there, we want to be there. And what you do by using that process is you show the other teams the new world. they're delivering projects quicker, they're happier, time to value, all the stuff that we know. And that then allows it allows you as a business, I'm talking from a customer perspective, to say, look at the success we've got from Team Phoenix, or whatever they're called, these fancy names, to these other teams who were maybe hesitant to coming across. That's a great way of building the new world inside an organization, which you can do yourself, and then start to bring people over team by team, rather than this huge big bang approach where we know the hardest thing with migrations is actually the people. It's always the people, If it wasn't for the people, life would be easy, and that's so true in every aspect. So for leaders who know they want this new world, that's another example of it. Start small, build the nirvana, bring teams across, grow the nirvana. And that, I think that helps people emotionally, actually, on that journey, which is quite a tough part.
Yeah, I love that story. It's totally the human factor, right? Like you mentioned, and then the success story. And also when you're migrating, don't try to mimic or like mirror the tool you're using before. You're migrating to a new, better tool that you chose. So lose the strengths of this tool. Don't try to make it look as the old one. It doesn't make sense, right?
And I'm going to nick a phrase off Nigel Budd, and we'll reference Nigel because he's a wise man. When you move house, you don't take all the crap that's in your closet, loft, basement, whichever country you're in, or whatever you use for what's in the roof or down below. You don't take it with you. So don't do it in migrations. Pretend you've got a blank sheet of paper. I've got a blank sheet of paper. How do I want to run my business? Design that, then bring people across. Because otherwise, that you're just missing out on all the value you could get.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Paul. I really enjoyed our conversation.
So did I. I can't believe it's been a full hour.
Yes, like I was planning about 30 minutes, and it was so good to talk to you that I wanted it to last.
Great. Well,
thank you, Paul. It was lovely. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.